So my friend Cindy, who is originally from Taiwan, recently told me this crazy story about a paranormal encounter she had during a camping trip with her friends when she visited Taiwan a month ago. It all started when one of her childhood friends suggested taking a trip to the countryside for some outdoor camping and sightseeing. Cindy, being the adventurous soul that she is, agreed to go along with them. They all live in Taipei, which is a bustling city, so the idea of getting away from the hustle and bustle for a few days sounded amazing. They planned the trip, packed their bags, and on the day of the trip, Cindy's friend showed up in a camper van to pick her up. They then picked up the other 4 friends who were joining them on this adventure. Majority of the first day was spent on the road, stopping at various locations to take pictures of the sceneries along the way. As they drove past a small village with country houses and a temple, they eventually came across a small shrine devoted to the god of land at a junction. They followed their GPS and arrived at the campground just after 7 p.m. They set up their tents, had dinner, and chatted under the canopy until it was time to turn in for the night. Cindy fell asleep, only to be awakened by the sound of footsteps outside her tent. She unzipped the entrance and saw one of her friends walking towards the portable toilet. As she got close to the portable toilet, she stood still with her back turned towards Cindy. Cindy shouted at her friend, but she didn't respond. So, Cindy decided to go outside to check on her friend, but as she got closer and tapped on her friend's shoulder, she felt lightheaded all of a sudden, and she looked down at the ground briefly and looked back up again at her friend. She then realized it wasn't her friend at all. Her friend was no longer there. An old man in a black traditional suit, who appeared to be somewhat translucent, was standing in front of her. Terrified, Cindy tried to run back to her tent, but found herself unable to reach it. She noticed she was on the road and kept seeing the campground where they had set up their tents at a distance away as she continued to run towards it again and again. She passed out at some point and woke up the next day a few meters away from the campground on the road. Her friends found her the next morning, and she told them what had happened. They packed up and left the area, heading to a small village where they visited a temple. The caretaker of the temple performed a cleansing ritual on Cindy and told them that the campground used to be a cemetery. The bodies of the deceased were never relocated after they cleared out the tombstones and converted the location into a campground, and the small shrine they saw at the junction was there to prevent the disgruntled spirits from leaving. The locals knew the place was haunted and avoided going near it. Cindy's friends were shocked by the revelation, and they all decided to leave the area immediately. As they drove away in their van, Cindy continued to recount her terrifying experience from the night before. 2 other friends also recalled hearing commotion outside their tent, which sounded like footsteps at some point in the night, but they were too tired, so they never got up to check and fell back to sleep again. It was definitely a chilling story that left everyone on edge. The thought of camping on a former cemetery was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Cindy's friends were grateful that they had all made it out of there safely, and they vowed never to return to that campground again. As they drove back to Taipei, the event that transpired during their camping trip weighed heavily on their minds. They couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. It was a trip that none of them would ever forget, and it served as a stark reminder that sometimes the past can come back to haunt you in the most unexpected of ways.